People didn't know what happened to Luther. Some thought he was killed. Then the news came that Luther was safe. People started reading his writings more eagerly than before. More people sided with Luther. People felt more responsible now that Luther was not there, so they continued to work for the cause. But Satan was also at work. Some people believed they were given special messages from heaven. They turned away from the Bible and began to rely on their own feelings instead. One of the prophets said that the angel Gabriel gave him a message. Another person said that God gave him wisdom to explain the Bible. They went to the reformers and told them that God sent them to teach the people. Soon, the people started to neglect the Bible or did away with it altogether. What those people were doing weren't helping, but undoing the work. Luther heard about what was going on and headed back to Wittenberg. Danger was all around him, but he wasn't scared. He went to battle for the truth. People got word that Luther had come back and that he was going to preach. They came from all over, overflowing the church. He knew that he could preach and write, but he couldn't force someone to believe it. That was their decision. It was God's word that would do the hard work. Luther preached every day for a week, and God's word won in the end. The people were brought back to the truth. Luther didn't want to meet the fanatics. They said they were receiving special messages from heaven, but they didn't allow anyone to correct them. They wanted everyone to accept what they were saying without question. They demanded to talk to Luther, so he agreed to meet with them and expose their errors. After that, they left Wittenberg. This fanaticism was checked for a while, but several years later, it got worse than before. There was a guy named Thomas Munzer who was very gifted, but used his talents for himself. He said that whoever has the Spirit has the true faith, even though a person never sees the scriptures in his life. These fanatical teachers followed impressions, thinking every thought was God's voice. Some burned their Bibles, just wanting to follow the Spirit. Thousands of people accepted his teachings. Satan is always trying to trick people so they will call bad good and good bad. God's people have been made to look like the bad guys, while the ones used by Satan are made to look good. People are being fooled when they turn away from the Bible and start relying on their own feelings and impressions rather than obeying what God's law says. This is one of Satan's most successful tricks to make the truth looked down upon. Luther defended the gospel, and God's word was a weapon in these battles. Later, Luther finished translating the New Testament into the German language so the people could understand it. Those who loved the truth were so happy, but others who followed human traditions didn't like it and rejected it. The priests didn't like how regular people could now talk to them about the Bible, and that would show that they actually didn't know much about the Bible themselves. Rome tried with all their might to stop the scriptures from being spread, but to no avail. The more they tried to stop it, the more people wanted to know what it really taught. Everyone who could read was eager to study the Bible for themselves. They carried it with them and read it over and over again. They would memorize large portions of it. Luther immediately started to translate the Old Testament after seeing how well the New Testament was being accepted. He would publish it in part as soon as it was completed. What he and his friends would write, other people would spread. Soon, there were tons of colporteurs in Germany. Rich and poor, educated and uneducated people would study these writings. At night, the village school teachers would read them to little groups around the fire. Some would receive the truth and they would go tell others. People were seen with the Bible defending the truth. The papists told the priests and monks to prove them wrong, but they didn't know the scriptures and God's power, so they were completely defeated. Crowds would come together to hear the truth from people who weren't educated. Their simple teachings of God's word put to shame the great and educated men. Common people, including women and even children, knew the Bible better than the priests and doctors. Rome's congregations started to dwindle. People found something different that they had longed for, and they turned away from superstitions and human traditions. Persecution came back, and these teachers would find somewhere else to share the truth, whether it was a church, a house, or even outside. Thousands of believers died, but the work went on. Persecution only spread the truth further, and the fanaticism Satan tried to add to it showed more clearly the difference between the work of Satan and the work of God.